We will also use Slido throughout the meeting today. We want you all to interact with us as much as possible, so please feel free to, as usual, leave comments in the chat or raise your hand to get more involved. If we miss anything, feel free to jump in as long as someone is not submitting a formal presentation. Okay, so for our agenda today, we will talk about active transportation. Our plan, Walk, Roll, Illinois, will give you a brief update on that. We will also give an agency spotlight presentation, and that will be by someone that is internal to IDOT, so I will introduce Sean later formally. And we also will have an opportunity for everyone to get involved regarding policy updates, funding opportunities, legislative updates, and then we will have a roundtable discussion. We will talk about who's next for the agency spotlight and also our upcoming 2024 meetings. At this time, we will do an active transportation plan update. Again, that plan is entitled Walk, Roll, Illinois. And of course, we have an active website that we'd love for you all to continue to visit and give us feedback wherever possible. So as you notice, we have our updated schedule. This looks a little bit different than our original schedule. We have where we started and a few things that we've done here with stakeholder engagement. We've, of course, had the project kickoff. You all have been a part of the stakeholder meetings, and we have some other things that happened here early on. Of course, public engagement has been a primary focus for us, and analysis and strategies. And as we move through the plan, you will notice that our plan will conclude, our final plan, the estimate is for late 2024, where we will end with steering committee meeting number 5, public engagement, and plan development, where you all will have an opportunity to review our final plan. Okay, for this, we are going to give you basically a snapshot of a meeting that we are going to have starting tomorrow. We have a group of meetings with stakeholders, and so this is just a snapshot of some of the things that we will talk about. And so on this slide, you will notice that we have statewide characteristics. The following areas in Illinois had a higher combined equity and demand need, and so that was based on analysis results. You'll see down here many of the cities or areas that are covered, and with this, we basically highlighted those areas on this slide here for existing conditions. Okay, here's an example of our existing conditions. We highlighted Springfield and communities along the Illinois River. And as you'll notice, a few quantitative things here regarding 348 miles of bikeways that we have available in Illinois, and just a few highlights. District 6 had a greater concentration of people in vulnerable communities than the state average, and District 6 also had a lower active transportation demand than the state average. And you'll be able to kind of observe this at a later date in greater detail, as it will be placed on our website. For phase 1 engagement, the summary is that we had a little over 2,400 surveys completed. We had a virtual open house with 123 visitors, and on our interactive map, we had 4,137 comments. We had some success in our pop-up events area with 14 events, 340 intercept surveys, and a little over 2,800 project postcards distributed. And as you notice, we had our meeting number 1 in spring of 2023, meeting number 2, which will take place beginning tomorrow. And again, those are several consecutive meetings, with meeting number 3 being in the fall. I guess that's now, or later on we'll have the fall of 2024. So we'll also have targeted focus groups, which we'll talk about a little bit later, for our DEI, and subject matter focused groups as well. Okay, so we got a lot of comments on our interactive map, as I mentioned, and you'll notice that the larger words here in the word cloud will be the ones that were mentioned most frequently. And so overall, most of the comments were in reference to safety and the accessibility of infrastructure for bicycles and pedestrians. Respondents mentioned locations they felt were unsafe or needed improvements to encourage an increase in active transportation. When removing the most common words, we observed a better picture of specific topics of concern. Often mentioned were visibility, crossings and intersections, and congestion. Okay, so we had an online survey, and we found some trends with 2,442 respondents. You'll notice that we had, a variety of people responding. So only 96 lived in the rural areas, and then we had as high as 1,323 who lived in urban areas. We have upcoming engagement, as I mentioned, and so hopefully you all will take part in these meetings. Region 1 is Wednesday. Actually, we start with Region 2 first, but we mentioned these in order of region. But Region 2 starts tomorrow, and that is from 1 to 3. Every meeting is actually from 1 to 3. And then we move on with Region 1, which is on Wednesday, February 7th. Region 3 is February 8th, Region 4, February 14th, and Region 5, February 15th. Please share any contact information for those you feel should be a part of those meetings. We definitely want to increase numbers and make sure we have as much participation as possible. For upcoming engagement, we have a DEI focus group that will be, well, multiple actually, that will be developed. We are currently working on the approach and will be coordinating with LRTP efforts. We will have subject matter focus groups, and topics will be created based on the TSG meeting feedback from our number 2 meeting. Okay, we have some technical memos that we've been reviewing in-house. We've given a lot of feedback on design guidance. So thank you to any of those internally who have had a chance to review those documents and give us feedback. It's greatly appreciated. In addition to design guidance, we have policy and programs, new mobility, maintenance, funding, and the current state of biking and walking in Illinois. Adam, do you have anything to add before I introduce our speaker?
No, I think you covered it. Should be good. Thank you.
Okay, great. So at this time, I noticed that we do have our speaker on the line. So I'd like to thank Sean Martin. I have it, and I can't believe I messed it up. I almost got it right.
Don't worry about it, Leanne. It's very long last name.
Yes, and I'm like, I actually, we had this discussion about a year ago, and I've had it ever since. And now that I have to say it again, I didn't do so well. But anyway, so thank you for your patience as I mispronounced your name. So sorry about that. But I want to introduce Sean. He's the Bureau Chief of Programs, Projects, and Safety Outreach here at the Illinois Department of Transportation. And so I will let him give an agency spotlight on It's Not a Game. I'll stop sharing, Sean, and you're welcome to take over if you'd like.
No problem. Hold on, let me myself show up.
Okay.
Okay, is everyone seeing my slides?
Yes.
Okay, great. So like Leanne said, I am in the communications department. My bureau is the Bureau of Programs, Projects, and Safety Outreach. And for those that are unfamiliar, I know Adam and Leanne and Janelle on the call are very familiar with what I do, what my group does. But what we generally do is, the big thing is outreach. So we work with all of our district offices, central office staff to ensure the communications department knows what's happening all across the department in all the areas. And we get that back to other parts of the communications department so we can get that information and stories out to the public. And the other key part that we do is we work with consultants, very specifically on this, and what I'm going to be talking about is our safety campaign. It's not a game, and that's really where we work with the Bureau of Safety Program Engineering. Oh boy, you have to correct me if I got that wrong. We work with them to get their safety messaging, IDOT safety messaging across to the public. And that's what I'm going to be talking to you a bit today about, is the shifts we made from our previous campaign style to our new one, and kind of what successes we have seen since implementing our new safety campaign. Safety programs and engineering. Thank you, Adam. So our current campaign that we are talking about is It's Not a Game. If you were familiar with our previous safety messaging, it was Life or Death Illinois. Life or Death Illinois was our first time, I believe, wrapping all of our safety messaging and campaigns around one common umbrella or theme of Life or Death Illinois. And the goal was to really show the human impact of, you know, either making bad choices while driving or just not following the standard rules of driving your car. So the consequences of impaired driving, texting while driving, distracted driving, driving home the human impact of making those choices and causing those crashes. We, about 3 years ago, it'll be about 3 years this year, we shifted from the Life or Death umbrella to It's Not a Game. It's Not a Game is more retro themed video game, and that is because we're trying to really hone in, and we did some data research on the back end on this to really hone in on our key demographic of 18 to 35-year-old, particularly males, that are making these choices that are causing these crashes. So we put in a lot of data and testing, and we set up some focus groups to see what messaging would resonate. We tested a few campaign styles, and we landed on It's Not a Game. And that's where we have been for the past, we're into year 3. And the reason why we switched is the somber, serious messaging of Life or Death Illinois it was very effective during the time, and we saw a lot of success with it in a lot of ways. We won a national award for that campaign, but it had hit its wall almost. People had the somber tone and the serious message of it just wasn't resonating with anyone as much as it did in the beginning. And so we needed to change it to really keep people to pay attention. We couldn't keep up with the somber messaging all the time because we were not having that same impact. So we had to make a change. And we also wanted to shift more of an emphasis away from the fines and the more heavily handed enforcement messaging into more of an education, letting people know what the consequences are, what the choices they can make, and the impacts of those choices without focusing so much on the enforcement side. We still tell that message, but just it's more about education now than it is about the enforcement side of things. And then this new campaign has allowed us to change what we are saying out there and how we're presenting it sort of midstream. So every post that we do, every digital asset we put out there, every digital message, ads we run on streaming networks, streaming radio, streaming TV, we analyze all that data and we make changes to those advertisements to make sure we're having the biggest impact. If we're seeing something that's not really resonating, we'll take it down and we will put a new one up that is. So it's just about ensuring we're constantly out there reaching our target demographics and they're seeing that message, and hopefully it's resonating with them and it stays with them as they are out on the roads. Now I'm going to get more specific into our bike ped side, since I'm not going to talk about all the stats from all the safety campaigns because that would bog this whole group down and something you're not necessarily, it's not in your wheelhouse, or it's not really what this call is about. I'm really going to hone in on just the bike ped side of our safety campaign, and show you sort of some of the successes we have had with this change from the serious tone to where we are with this more educational, like not comedy based, but just video game themed based messaging. And you can see an example on the right side. We spoofed a little bit on the Beatles to get people to think about pedestrian safety. So for the bike ped landing page itself, again, all the stats I'm going to show you and tell you today are specific to our bike ped messaging and landing page. In 2023, we had over 136,000 landing page visits, which is really big. We've blown away all the numbers that we've had with Life or Death Illinois. So just in 2023, we had over 136,000 visits to that landing page. And on that, we've made another change this year where we have not only English versions of our ads. We have Spanish versions of everything. And our Spanish page translations or our Spanish page views was almost 45,000 page views. So by providing people Spanish language messaging, they are engaging with that. And it's broadening the audience we're reaching, which is a huge, huge deal for IDOT, especially today when safety is a real focus of the department. As far as social media goes, obviously we are out there all the time on social media platforms. I encourage you, if you're not already, follow It's Not a Game. We're on all the major social media platforms. Just give us a follow and you'll see everything we're doing. But the bike ped campaigns reached over 4 million people with almost 18 million impressions. It's been really successful. And those social medias and all these overall digital campaigns have resulted in about a little over 38,000 clicks, which is people actually engaging with that content and going to our landing page or whatever it is the asset is we want them to see and engage with. So in our traditional media format, we still do that with regular radio, TV ads. It's a little harder to track sometimes on where they go after they view it, but we have reached over 11 million people. Again, this is just bike ped stats, but we have reached over 11 million people in the traditional media space, which is a good stat for us to have. There's been 39 million impressions, and then of that 39 million, 12 million of that has come from television ads. Typically, we focus on sports, but we've expanded it out to gaming networks and other areas that have grown in our target demographic that we're trying to reach. And then the paid digital ads that we produce, we've had about 75,000 clicks. Again, this is just bike ped stats. We've had, if you looked at our campaign as a total, we've had a huge increase. I'm just focusing in on just the bike ped here. And then kind of to give you, I'm going to play a quick video. If you haven't seen it yet, to give you an idea of this type of game style that we're trying to promote. And this is actually thanks to Adam Gabani on the call. He was part of the group before he switched over to his current role. And we changed from one style of video game to another to really drive home the importance of driving safely. So I'll play this really quickly for the group so you can get a sense of the video campaigns we put out there. So I don't know, Adam, I think you said, were people able to hear it or just see it? I saw that message after it was almost done because it was just a 30-second spot.
We could hear it, or we could see it, but not hear it.
Okay. The music wasn't super important. It just reinforced the messaging that you were hearing in text. But again, go to the YouTube page for It's Not a Game. You can see it. All our ads are in both English and Spanish, both the video ads. Everything we do is in English and Spanish. So check it out, share it. If you are in that space and would like to keep sharing our info, please go to follow all the It's Not a Game pieces, the YouTube pages, share that as much as you'd like. We do have partner toolkits. So if you are needing assets of your own in your own individual organization, we have those. They're free. They're available on the website. You can download them and use them on your various social platforms. We're happy to help you get the word out on safety. But that's where we are right now. That's the current state for safety messaging for IDOT and our It's Not a Game brand. And that is really my presentation. Any questions? I'm going to stop sharing.
Sean, it's Janelle. I was just wondering, so with this campaign, excuse me, did you guys come up with it, or did NHTSA like have like some basic information for you to put into this? Or I was just
No,
wondering.
we came up with it. This was something
Wow.
we did in conjunction with our consultant, DCC Marketing.
Mhm. All right, yeah. And
We
didn't
kind of noticed that NHTSA's picked up on some of our stuff. Just
oh
not saying that they have.
yeah, we're trendsetters.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, well, good deal. And I was just I thought I saw somewhere that this campaign won an award as well.
This one did not.
Okay.
We did win an award for an event we did with the Peoria Chiefs this past year, but our original, and it's not a game, was part of that when we were
Mhm.
doing the Peoria Chiefs game, which is a minor league baseball team for those that don't know in Peoria, and we did a work zone safety focused event in partnership with the baseball team this past year in 2023 there. But we did win an award for that 2 years ago, and I don't know if you remember how long ago. It was 2 or 3 years ago is what we won for Life or Death Illinois.
Okay. All right. Good work. Thank you.
Anything else?
Hi, this is Todd Schmidt from FHWA. I had a couple questions on number of visits. Are you able to tell if it's the same person or same IP address that's visiting the site? And then also, are you able to see where they go after they visit the site and how they drill down throughout the site?
I can't see how. I'd have to get the numbers from the consultant because I didn't have those on hand. But we can see where they go when they drill into the site. It's not a very deep site, so it's not like there's a lot of places for them to go. Um, but we can see that. What was the other question you had, Todd?
How many, like, is it the same person?
Oh,
Do they hit
no,
it
it's not the
multiple
same person.
times?
So we filter out duplicate. It's all you. All the numbers I give you were unique visitors, not duplicate. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if one person came back 5 times, that wasn't the data I was looking at.
Okay, great, thanks.
Are there any other questions for Sean? Okay, well, I have a few. I always have questions. So, okay, this is kind of along the lines of one that was already asked, but can the games be played by one person repeatedly or one subscriber? So if someone visits the website multiple times, will they still have the same access as their initial visit?
Oh yeah, do you mean like if they want to play? So we do have a new feature where there's actual games available now, and one person can go back and play as many times as they want. The games that we have up. I don't know if the pedestrian one's up yet, bike pedestrian one's up yet. It will be, but they're timed, so you can play them for a limit. The answer is yes. Anyone can go back as many times as they want. There's no content lockout or anything like that. You can always go back and play the game, any of the games we have, any quizzes we have, as many times as you'd like. Just because our goal is to get information out there, not necessarily keep people from trying to get it. If that answers your questions, Leanne?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. And the name of the YouTube channel, it's a game?
It's not a game. I will give
Oh,
me a
it's not a
second.
game. Okay.
Yeah, I will pull it up. I'll drop it in the chat in a second here. Let me get to it, and I will drop it in the chat.
Okay, awesome. And then my last question is, I'm just curious, what are the other areas of concentration outside of biped for this campaign?
Yeah, so it's all of our standard. I say standard, but it's our standard messaging of our focus group from NHTSA. So it's impaired driving, distracted driving, work zone safety, motorcycle awareness, pedestrian safety is the major category, but we put bicycle and pedestrian safety together. But pedestrian safety is like the category that NHTSA has. And then occupant safety, and then I added recently was speeding awareness, so that is a new category. But those are the major categories for us in our messaging.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay, great. Do we have any final questions for Sean? Okay, I'm not seeing anything in the chat. So thank you, Sean, for dropping that link in the chat. If you all can take advantage of that, please visit this site and check it out, spread the word. IDOT has been very excited about this campaign, and so I definitely encourage you all to share this with other stakeholders. And so, Sean, I guess your time is up. We thank you so much for joining. And if there are any follow-up questions, if you happen to drop off, that's totally fine. I'll make sure to get those over to you. But
No, I'll
yeah,
stay
go
on
ahead.
through the meeting. I've got it on my calendar, so if anybody has anything else, I will be here.
Okay. Awesome. Perfect. Okay. Well, that's great. And you all have the opportunity to drop questions in the chat or feel free to raise your hand at a later time. Okay, so we will move on to policy updates. We generally have this discussion as an opportunity to share agency policy updates that may impact strategies, goals, and or allocation of resources in connection with bicycles. I will give the floor to the working group as a whole. You all can openly have discussion at this time, but I will add that if this is your first time joining us, or maybe your first, second, or third time joining, please briefly introduce yourself to the group prior to your initial question or comment. And so it is open for policy updates and any discussion from your agency perspective or any questions that you may have for another agency that is present. Okay, it is possible that we don't have discussion for.
Yeah,
This is. Yes, go.
Hi, Leanne. This is
Okay.
Filiberto. I'm from IDOT Bureau. I'm from IDOT Bureau of Design Environment. I'm the policy unit chief. I thought Marshall was gonna chime in, but I can chime in on some updates from our office related to bike. And he might have covered.
This is Marshall. I was just being overly polite.
Do you want me to continue, Marshall, or do you want to go ahead and?
Oh, I'll go ahead. If, I didn't know, Leanne, if you were going to call on me later or this is the right time.
Well, let's see. I know we talked about legislation. So if you do have policy updates, yeah, you can go ahead and speak now, and then we'll jump to
Yeah, this is
legislation
more
later as well.
legislation.
Okay, I think we'll hold off possibly for, we have about 3 more slides. So yeah, we may not have policy updates, and that's fine as well. If anyone from any agency has any questions for us, things that we can look into regarding any policy, we're more than happy to look into those things. And if not, that's fine. We can move forward. So I'll give you all a moment. And if I see anything pop up in the chat, or if anyone raises their hand and I miss it, just let me know. We will move forward to funding opportunities. This discussion is an opportunity to share funding opportunities or expenditure updates that may impact strategies, goals, and or the allocation of resources or project status in connection with bicycles. So if there are any notice of funding opportunities, if there are any funding opportunities available at your agency, or if you have taken part in a funding opportunity that you want to give an update on, now's your time. And then I will have an announcement on behalf of Greg Mihalich at the end of this policy discussion, or excuse me, this funding discussion. So at this time, I'm opening up the floor.
Hey, Leanne, this is Adam. This isn't my world anymore, but I'll put a plug in. The Bureau of Safety Programs and Engineering has their notice of funding opportunities posted at the current time for all of their NHTSA programs. Bicycle programs would put in this, whether it's education, enforcement, curriculum development, kind of really anything, kind of a catch-all really for anything that's focused on bicycle fatalities and serious injuries. That is open. I think it closes mid-February, but if you just Google safety, Illinois Highway Safety Grants, there's a button on there for current postings, and all of those are listed under there. So those don't only just have to be those kinds of programs. We also have programs for law enforcement. So if any of your cities, towns, townships, sheriffs are interested in any kind of enforcement programs, we also have those posted as well. So it's just a great, there's lots of potential in those grants. You can do a little bit of everything in them. So they're very cool grants, and you can make it kind of what you want. So if there's ideas you have, if you want to give, say, you want to put on a bike summit, that's something that could be funded under those NHTSA programs. Anything you want to do, really, that would meet, of course, they have to meet the federal criteria, but generally speaking, any kind of education enforcement stuff is totally allowable under there. So I will put that link in the chat and put that out there for everybody to see. But I know those are currently available, and like I said, they close, I think, mid-February, and I don't think there's no caps on those grants, so they can be as little as, say, $500, or they could be $500,000. Right, it's all based on availability, but there's no caps or minimums on those grants. So if you just have a little idea, you can do something like that, or if you have a bigger idea, and the applications are not that complicated, so you can just give it a try. I mean, the worst thing that can happen is we can tell you no, but but if we just say yes, you've got a program to start. So yeah, that's all the funding opportunities I know at the current moment. So I'll put that information in the chat, and if anybody has any questions, I'll do my best to answer them. It's not my world anymore, but I'm pretty well versed in it.
Great, thanks, Adam. And if anyone else needs to jump in, please let me know, but I'll give just a few brief updates. I know we have recently had a Safe Routes to School call for projects, and all applications have been received for that. I don't have much of an update, but please note that John Paris, who is still a active member of this working group, is still the contact, as well as Kelly Larimore, and they are in the Bureau of Programming here at IDOT. So if you have any questions or you need their contact information for updates for any applications possibly that you or your agency has submitted, please let us know. In addition, and I'm not sure that anything has changed. If it has, don't quote me on this, but the next call for projects, at least from an ITEP or Safe Routes to School perspective, is typically ITEP, and so that would be the next thing to start preparing your agency for in sequence. And so I just wanted to kind of put that out there and give you all, of course, advance notice. Most people do know about it, but just in case you are new to this, ITEP is typically the opposing year for Safe Routes to School. So they just go every other year, Safe Routes and ITEP calls. Lastly, in our Bureau, I'll just mention that we have been working with our TMA TAP agencies, our MPOs, and just working on transparency, having a lot more meetings with them. We've been meeting with them quarterly to bring in our districts and to make sure that all parties involved are communicating. And so this has given them more transparency regarding their funding and just some of the reporting that happens, and so that they are fully aware of all that is going on with their allocations. So just wanted to mention that. And then the last thing I will mention, I have placed it in the chat. This is from, let's see, this is from Greg Mihalich, and it states, sorry, having trouble seeing it here. One current open grant opportunity is the Tourism Incentive Grant Program. There is a NOFO, and the number is there. It's in illinois.gov at their website, I believe, and the program requires that an applicant would have an incentive program established. And you can read the rest of the details here if you do need that in writing and you don't have the opportunity to grab that in the chat. Just feel free to send me an email and I will send that over to you. So that's a great opportunity from Greg. And I do have a link. If you can give me one moment to grab it, I had copied it in efforts to paste it in, but I think I lost it. So I think that link was, we'll see if this works. Okay, so there's the link for the Department of Economic Opportunity, Commerce and Economic Opportunity. So, okay, do we have any other feedback for funding? Okay, we will move forward Next, we will talk about partnership opportunities. I think this is my favorite part. This is an opportunity to promote partnership opportunities and or gain the support of partners who may help your agency leverage resources in connection with bicycles. Do we have anyone who would like to provide input on this area? Okay, we will move on to legislative updates. Okay, Marshall, it's your turn unless someone else has anything else to share. We will allow you all to take the floor.
Okay, thanks, Leanne. There's two bits of legislation that are bouncing around Bureau of Design and Environment that directly affect bicycles. But really, the first one I'm going to mention, we're more waiting on operations to see how it's going to go. As most of you know, last year, the legal code was changed. The vehicle code was changed to require signing for bicycle trails and how they interact and intersect with a street. So operations was working on a policy for that. Well, there's another proposed amendment to that bill that's in the current assembly. It's going to make some tweaks to how the signing goes, and then it also requires cones or barricades, drums to alert cyclists and just says dangerous conditions. So I dropped down to operations a couple days ago and asked them. They said we're actually kind of negotiating back and forth with the sponsor and trying to figure out exactly what he wants on that. So watch this space. A policy will come out of operations, and there'll probably be some policy changes up in the design manual as well once that is done. So do we have any questions on that? That's Senate Bill 2863 before I move on to my next topic.
Hi, yeah, this is Maggie Sherwinski from the Active Transportation Alliance, and I had a village reached out to me, an engineer from a village in the Chicago region, and they just had some very specific questions about the current bill or the law. And is like, are you a good person to send them to if they wanted to get more clarity on some of the details, or should they wait for the policy that will be coming out of operations?
It's okay to go ahead and email them to operations. They could email them to Kyle Armstrong, and I can put that in the chat in a moment, his
Yeah.
email address. He's Bureau Chief of Operations, and he can answer specific questions right now because parts of the law are the law now, and villages are probably eager to go ahead and get compliant. And it may take a while for the legislative process to be completed on the other tweaks. I
Right.
don't think there'll be any redundant changes if people go out and put up these specific regulatory traffic control signs for the trails, stop signs for the bicycles, intersection conflict, or so other types of warning signs for the motorized traffic.
Okay,
So
yeah.
I'll put
Great.
Kyle's email address in the chat here in a moment.
Okay, super. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? Okay, hearing none, I'll move over to the other one we're looking at. Senate Bill 2014 turned into Public Act 103/0502, and this was the one that required IDOT to, if we were doing work near intersection, the end language was within 500 feet of an intersection, to extend our work through that intersection. So we've made some interpretations on how this is all going to go. There's supposed to be bicycle and pedestrian friendly improvements. So we've interpreted that it goes with the nature of the job we are working on. So if we're just going out there and doing some patching work, we'll take a look at within our job and at the intersection within that 500-foot limit and make sure if a crosswalk needs to be refreshed or if there's a sign that needs maintenance, we'll go ahead and take care of it. If we're doing more extensive work where we're acquiring right of way, then we'll work on ramps, we'll work on connecting sidewalk links or trail links that need to be completed to complete the connection, complete the origins and destinations. So we've gone through our first cycle. We've actually implemented this into our policy manual, and jobs that were on the January letting reflected this new direction from the legal code. And we've submitted our report to the to the legislature. They'll receive it here pretty soon. I think it's still waiting on all the final signatures. So we're probably going to get some feedback and make sure we were doing what they wanted them to do. But the short version for this group is it's not going to change a lot for what IDOT does. We still want to get the ramps. We still want to correct signals. We still want to complete these links. But we're not only going to do it within jobs as we have that sort of work going on, but we're going to reach out a little bit further than the natural limits to go ahead and get to that intersection within 500 feet. And the direction there really was to make sure that our job limits aren't preventing us from also making logical termini for bikes and pedestrians. So do we have any questions on that effort? Okay, hearing none. Questions on that one can be directed towards me. I'll put my email address in the chat as well. And over the years, hopefully you'll see some improvement in how we complete links. We've already had one success story out of this new effort where we're uh, fixing a small gap in sidewalk that was one of those territorial fights. And I believe that's what the legislature was really after. Cut through the red tape, these territorial fights, and just complete these links for bikes and peds. So that's what I've got, Liam.
Thank you, Marshall. Greatly appreciate your feedback, your input, I guess, more so than feedback. But do we have any other questions or comments regarding anything else we've covered so far? We have lots of links in the chat, good bit of information. Okay, we will move forward. We're going to try.
I got one more for you, Leanne and Marshall.
Okay.
I think,
Sure.
One thing we should talk about a little bit is the changes that ProAg is going to make once FHWA finally gets their their adoption of that together. That's going to affect parking and ADA accommodations as well for pedestrians.
Hey, this is
Tim, do you mind
Marshall.
giving a little? Oh, go ahead, Marshall.
Yeah, Tim, that's been a really hot topic. Filberto Sotelo with my area, he's been tracking that along with other representatives. I don't know if he's ready to give an update quite yet because we're still working hard to figure out exactly what it's going to mean, and we're getting our head completely around what it's going to mean for parking. But we are working on it diligently.
Awesome, thank you. And Marshall, would you say Phil is the contact for ProAg?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Phil, can you put your email address in the chat? Just put ProAg by that for me. Thanks so much. Okay.
Yep, I can do that.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, if we don't have any additional discussion points or any feedback, we're going to attempt to move on to Slido. So we have, I know it's pretty far out. I know we have an upcoming conference that I'm aware of that will be hosted by Ride Illinois. Information is pending. We actually have a meeting with them at the end of the week, but I wanted to get some feedback from you all. So if you can scan the QR code. If you have any feedback regarding any upcoming conferences that we need to be aware of, bicycle, pedestrian, ADA, any active transportation conferences or summits, any peer exchanges that you all are aware of, we'd like to know about those things. And let's see if I can, oh, I went too far.
And Leanne, this was kind of the open discussion kind of roundtable area. So that was
Okay, if you want to just go for that.
Yeah, that was just a question that came, as part of the roundtable piece. So,
Okay. Awesome. And then I know on the Slido, we do have an opportunity to ask questions. I don't know if it's after you give feedback on this or if you can just do it on its own, but basically open discussion at this point is what we're going to do. If you all have anything that you want to discuss, any questions, anything that we can discuss, even for our next meeting that you're interested in talking about, we'd like to hear from you. And I will specifically put it out there that we want to hear from you all in terms of agency spotlights. We don't have to have people join us who are a part of the working group. This can be any great idea that you have for a presenter, for a speaker, something that would educate our group as well. And so if you all have any feedback, any ideas on that, we'd love to hear those at this time as well. So feel free to use Slido or put those in the chat. And let me know if I'm missing anything or if Slido's not working. And there was one more thing, and I have forgotten
well, Leanne, there was the SUMC
my train of thought, but
there was the SUMC
yes,
conference as well. And I
that's
think
right.
that's similar. I think they're taking a pause this year, but that will be in 2025, kind of similar to what Ride Illinois is doing. And Todd Schmidt has his hand up.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
hi,
have
Todd
missed
Schmidt
the
with,
hand.
oh, hi, Todd
No,
Schmidt with
you're welcome
FHWA.
to speak.
Thank you. This might be more of a question for Kyle Armstrong in operations. Curious on how IDOT's approaching the new MUTCD. Are y'all going to take the approach like last time where you adopt it with a supplemental, or are you going to adopt your own, or are you going to adopt the MUTCD? There's a beefed up section on pedestrian bicyclists. So just curious on where IDOT stands right now, or if anybody has any information on that, that'd be great.
This is Marshall. I'll hopefully speak accurately for Kyle, since I used to be down there. And I have spoken with him about this. The plan is to follow the course we have on previous MUTCD updates. So IDOT will issue a supplement, and the Illinois MUTCD will be a supplement to the national manual. The only reason we do a supplement is there's some legal aspects. There's some aspects in the Illinois Vehicle Code that require us to use certain colors, school zones, and bicycle warning signs are fluorescent yellow, green in our state, uh, weight limit signs, and a couple other little things. As far as the MUTCD changes to bike and ped, yes, there's a bunch, and I'm very much looking forward to what Kyle will have at the THE conference. For those of you that are not familiar with that conference, it's an annual thing, the last week of February or first week of March. And then after that point, we do believe that Kyle's going to publicly post a summary of what's going on with the MUTCD 11. That's the new edition. So we can all start to get our head around it. We've got 2 years. So from the time that the national manual came out, all states get 2 years to say they're going to adopt it in whole, adopt it with a supplement like Illinois does, or completely rewrite it in substantial compliance like Minnesota and California do. So there'll be a gradual scale over the next 2 years as the various states figure out what they're going to do and make those changes. Any questions on what I said?
Oh, thanks, Marshall. Appreciate the update.
Okay, great. Thank you all for that discussion. We will kind of move to the next slide. Of course, we've talked about this a little bit, but this is an opportunity to provide ideas for our next agency spotlight opportunities. So I know we had, goodness, I think 3 meetings with an agency spotlight now. So hopefully that's something you all are enjoying, just to change up our format a bit and to allow us to branch out a little bit more. We are considering other options of possibly going on a tour or maybe organizing a bike ride. We're just exploring some ideas. And so anything like that that you all want to contribute to give us ideas, it doesn't have to be in the city of Springfield. We're open to, and this is not something that we would look to do outside of the confines of our meeting time, but this would possibly replace our meeting and would be an opportunity to possibly see bicycle and pedestrian accommodations live and in person. And so just give us any ideas that you have. You're welcome to email me or put it in the chat if you can think of anything at this moment. We'll move on to upcoming meetings. I did want to mention again, please, as a reminder, accept those meeting invitations for the February active transportation meetings if you have received an invitation. We certainly want as many people involved as possible. And then our upcoming 2024 meetings and updates, we have our next meeting is subject to change, but typically it's scheduled for May 6th. And we have August 12th and November 4th. And then we have, as I mentioned, some updates to the Interagency Bikeways Coordinating Working Group. And Adam, I don't know if you want to speak on this area or if you want me to go ahead and continue.
Yeah, I'll take this. Yeah, so kind of what Leanne just kind of mentioned is we're kind of looking to update this group and make it more action oriented. So we're starting off things, we're working with a consultant. We're going to have a logo created for this group. We're going to condense the name a little bit. We're thinking like the Interagency Council on Bikeways. That's kind of what the legislation kind of says. So, because the Interagency Bikeway Coordinating Working Group is a mouthful, so we're looking to kind of condense that just to make it a little easier on everybody. And similar, like making this more actionable, we want to renew vision. So this is where we're got a meeting scheduled with Marshall and Phil, and we're gonna sit down and kind of talk about, kind of maybe combining forces and kind of re-envisioning what this whole meeting is, and hopefully we get some, maybe, like I said, focus on some action items that this group can accomplish. And then, again, we're just in the beginning phases of this, kind of just brought this up and kind of started the foundational steps to make some changes. So there'll be more changes as we go, and that's to be determined. But, that's kind of the general direction we'd like to take this group. Again, we just want to make it really useful to everybody that's on these calls, and again, try to make some action, make some actionable outcomes of this group. And then just thinking long term, as we kind of talked about and recapped at the beginning, is the active transportation plan, which is very integral to this group. And so, one of the bigger things we could talk about is that maybe this is the group that kind of looks at that active transportation plan and looks at the recommendations out of that. And, maybe this group can be the ones that focus on kind of making those changes and addressing those issues. Again, this is just chatter at this moment, nothing set in stone, but again, just some high level ideas of things that we would like to do, or just plan to do, I guess, for that matter. So there'll be more to come. Nothing's going to be quick or going to change, on a dime, but that's just the general direction we're thinking. And again, this will be discussed with a variety of people before anything really gets done. But that's really what we're looking for the future. Does anybody have any comments on that? Any questions or anything like to discuss on that?
Hi, Adam. This is Todd with FHWA again. That's great. I like what I've heard. That's pretty awesome. Can you touch on how the active transportation plan will be informed by the VRU assessment, and kind of go over like how you're going to take, the projects identified in there and the countermeasures identified there and roll that into the active transportation plan and try to get the movement on those projects that were identified in the VRU assessment?
Yeah, so it's a yeah. So with the VRU and basically done at this moment, right? We've been sharing that with our active transportation plan and our consultants that are developing that, with the hope to start rolling in those pieces into that. But also that's going to be integrated into our long range transportation plan as well, kind of that. So we'll really have that umbrella kind of top down approach where you know, we have all that stuff, information shared with the LRTP and those consultants. And then as we kind of build all these plans underneath that LRTP. So that's one of the things we've kind of, I don't want to say we've paused the ATP, but we've kind of slowed our roll on that a little bit, just to get really in line with the LRTP and again, and the VRU, right? So we don't really have a plan per se at this point, but that's our general approach. Does that make sense?
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, totally makes sense. I like the approach you all have taken. Thanks.
Yeah, no problem. Are there any other questions? All right, well, thank you. If you guys have any questions, feel free to email me anytime. I'll put my email in the chat as well. It's adamgavney@illinois.gov. Thanks.
Thank you, Adam. I appreciate it. And thank you, Todd, for the question. I will add just one bit of insight, Todd, is that the timing of these plans and assessments has been really integral, really key, and it's worked out well to where we've been able to really use our resources responsibly, because we've been able to partner with the VRU, and some things that we were going to cover and use funding for, they covered, and vice versa. And so we've really been able to take advantage of all of these plans and assessments working together at the same time. So it's been great, and we definitely look forward to the end results as we, finalize each project. So thanks for that question. Okay, well, if I don't have any other questions from anyone or comments, I would just like to thank you all and let you know, of course, I'm your contact, and then we have dot.activetransportation@illinois.gov for questions or to be placed on the schedule during an upcoming meeting. So anyone that would like to provide an agency spotlight or recommend anyone, of course, again, we are pulling on you all to give us ideas and keep things fresh. And outside of that, we'll continue to meet quarterly, and we'll keep you updated on all the changes that may occur. So outside of that, if there are no more questions or comments, I will let you all have an additional 30 minutes back to your day. So thank you so much for joining the IBCWG quarterly meeting. We greatly appreciate your input and your support of this working group, and hope to continue to have your involvement. And so thank you so much for joining, and have a great afternoon. Meeting adjourned.
Thanks, Leanne.
Thanks.